Now that you have a good understanding of what processes are, the process development environment is a model framework designed specifically for modeling and implementing software development processes. It consists of 4 steps. First, we use a designer that's built into the process development environment to build a meta model of all our processes. Then we push a button that generates the source code and merges that into a tool framework. At the end of step 3, we have a tool that can be compiled and executed. Then we can execute the tool to see if it meets our requirements. If the tool that we've created doesn't quite meet our requirements, we have an optional step, which is the 4th step, where we can modify the code with some custom code in order to extend or modify the metadata. As you will see, the development environment is set up in such a way that the custom code is separated from the modified code. So we could also, at any point, go back to step 1 and open up the designer and redesign our meta model and generate the code without removing any of our custom enhancements that we've made. Open up Visual Studio 2010. I'm going to show you how to create a new meta model for a new type of domain. So we select new product, and now that I've installed PDE on this, we have a new C# template that's a set of templates labeled PDE. And in those templates, we could create a Visual Studio plugin. We could create a Windows presentation formation application. We could create a library. We could extend the functionality of existing PDE application. We could extend the view model of an existing PDE application. We could create a new vModel editor or library for vModel editor. So for this, I'm just going to create a new application, and I'm going to call it my first domain. Product's just going to be called domain 1. Company is going to be NCSU, and the namespace will be DSL NCSU. Now that it's created, we can take a look at the code that came from the template. Basically, there's a section that's labeled custom code, where we should put any customizations that we make to the application. There's a folder named generated code, which is code that's generated from the T4 generator when we generate the model. And then there's this file down here, this .ingdsl. We need to open that with the PDE language designer, and that will allow us to create our meta model. So the first thing, the highest part of the hierarchy, is the domain model. I want to add a new domain class. I'm going to add a couple of new domain classes. And then in this domain model, I'm going to say that I want an embedding relationship to an existing element. I'm just going to pick domain class 2. And I'm going to say that I want to be able to also embed domain class 3. So here at the highest part of our hierarchy, when we're using this tool after we've built it and compiled it, we'll have a domain model at the top, and we'll have 2 possible domains that we could add, that we could embed underneath it in a tree, and we could keep going with that. Here I can add properties. I could add a new domain property if there's a property when this object is embedded in the other. If I want a particular property here, if I select the property, I can go over to the property window and change it to a Boolean or some other type of data type for the property. Here's our cardinality. This is saying that the domain model can only contain one domain class 2 item, and it can only contain one domain class 3 items. If I wanted to allow multiple domain class 3 items, I just have to select this and change the cardinality over here to say 0 or more. Actually, this is saying it has to contain 1. This is saying it contains 0 or many. The other type of relationship I would have is the arrows. This embedding here are the trees. If I want an arrow, that's a reference relationship. So I'm going to create a new reference relationship to an existing element. I'm going to allow it to reference the domain model. That just allows if I have domain class 2, I can draw an arrow from there to the domain model. And again, these arrow relationships, that can have their own properties. Typically, it would have a name or something like that. I'd add a new domain property and call it name or something like that. And then over here is where we say if it's required or optional. And we can give it a default value if we like. Same thing, we can add properties here. And also, if I want this to have some type of a view in the designer screen, then I would have to add a new shape mapping. So that's all I wanted to show you here. I'll open up an existing one to show you it there a little bit more, one that you're familiar with. We'll look at the family tree one in just a minute. But once I've done that, then I can just click this Transform All Templates button. That takes our except we have a validation error down here. Oh no, it validated fine. That just generated all the code for everything that we build here. So open up the generated code folder and we look at the model generator that was generated for the domain classes. We should see that it created classes for our for the domain model, for the domain class 2, and the domain class 3. So all the code was created for our meta model. Now if I just run it, we'll see the fruits of our labor. So if I choose new model, and I'm just going to name this my first model. And we'll see that we start with the domain model up here. I have a choice of adding domain class 2 or domain class 3. Those are embedded relationships that we added. Now that I've added class 2, you also see the shape showed up here because I attributed a shape to domain class 2. Now when I go to add, though, I can only add domain class 3 objects because I had a one-to-one cardinality here. However, I can add multiple class 3 domain objects, and I didn't associate shapes with those, so that's why it's not showing up here.